The Civil Rights Movement in Connecticut. The Civil Rights Movement in Connecticut broke barriers in the 19th through 20th century by taking the different injustices of the world at the time and reflecting on it, which prompted them to change the way in which the rest of the world thought it should be run by desegregating it. Connecticut's great shift in sides on how they perceive the world should be run is something that should be celebrated, remembered, as the most important decision ever made in Connecticut. Pain, rage, hurt, discrimination, racism. These words and feelings reeked of a stench that America was grounded on. The idea of segregation was brought into the fray, and this idea further separated the people of America. The land of the free was no more than a forgotten dream for most of the states, but one state still held on to that dream. One state still believed in change. One state wanted to create a world where we all could be equal. One state believed that no human is greater than the other. We are all equal. We shan't be a country of segregation, but a country of integration. For we are the melting pots of the world. We are America. Connecticut's doctrines shifted the way of the state's thinking towards the difference in race. The state of Connecticut and its people were the first to grasp and understand the idea of equality for all. Connecticut was the first to ratify the 14th Amendment in 1866. They created the first interracial commission founded by law and became the United States' first official civil rights agency.
I think that the progress that the country makes towards living up to its very well-intentioned, or at least good sounding founding words, we the people, and, about being created equal, and about liberty and justice for all. These are all aspirational things, and they sound good, they're pretty words. And I think American history is filled, as I see it, with times where we do rise up, and also times where we fall very far short. And there have been a lot of contradictions in our nation's history. And there have also been periods, I think, where we've had, definite signs of progress that feel almost inexorable, and then periods of backlash. And I think we've seen some of them just recently in our history.
Yes, there have been ups and downs, just like any other place, but this state has worked to go beyond that. We have evolved and shaped the minds of people who, when they left, went on and changed the world with the same thing that we represent, which is equality for all. Connecticut used their past experiences, and that helped them to create a state for all races to live in. They were one of the first states to actually accept all races, and this history should be taught in all schools. As previously stated, Connecticut was the very first state to ratify the 14th Amendment in 1866. But did you know, just 2 years later, in 1868, all public schools in Connecticut were required to allow all children to attend school, no matter their race. In 1884, the act of deprivation by color or race was made punishable by fine or imprisonment or both in the state of Connecticut. Discrimination when selling insurance due to the color of skin was forbidden. This was in 1887. 1944 through 1987, Dr. King's letters were revealed to the world. The Commission's office issued an order to adjust complaints under the Public Accommodations Act based on color, race, or creed. It was that discrimination in public housing projects were prohibited. This was in 1943. In 1949, segregation was outlawed in Connecticut's National Guard. This was just a taste of great things that Connecticut has done to show their support in the civil rights movement. The whole point of the civil rights movement was to gain equal rights as well as equal treatment for African Americans in America. Connecticut showed that they supported this movement by changing and adding laws that would help Black Americans live in their state more peacefully.
Connecticut and say, look, we were ahead on this too. Here, 1876, this rule that you cite, that's what, 145 years ago, but that was ahead of its time and very impressive.
That's something I found really impressive as well, as I did a lot of the research, and it was really interesting. So I do appreciate you giving some more insight on that.
Connecticut used their past experiences, and that helped them to create a state for all races to live in. As I said earlier, they were one of the first states to actually accept all races, and this history should be taught in all schools. This shows the prominence of Connecticut's ideologies. While the rest of America was wallowing in racism and hate, Connecticut was busy formulating a well-developed state that was running off of understanding. It was an unfamiliar situation that one could chat with a white person who was a peer, Pickens said. They were workers just like we were, and we could talk to them briefly during lunchtime and not get taken to jail for it.
And then to be able to have a milkshake at a drugstore, not be denied, it's like unbelievable. You mean tell me you're gonna serve me a milkshake in this drugstore in Simsbury? Yes. I never had a milkshake until I came to Simsbury. So many privileges, were just so impressive to me. I felt like I was being in the arena of freedom from oppression.
A key figure of the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had the opportunity to live in Connecticut during his summer as a student at Morehouse College, and because of his visit to Connecticut, he wrote letters back to his family detailing his experience. He was able to witness both Black and white people enjoy some of the same things without issue. Dr. King's experience of working in Connecticut was life-changing in a good way.
I never thought that a person of my race could eat anywhere, but we ate in one of the finest restaurants in Hartford. He wrote on June 18, 1944. And we went to one of the largest shows there.
I do not care about the color of his skin. I care about the quality of his voice.
That voice, now familiar to millions of people all over the globe, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Though some people may argue and say that there was still segregation, so Connecticut couldn't have been all that good. My response to that is, even though there was still segregation, the state still allowed African Americans, as well as other minorities, to live their lives with white people.
I think that simultaneously it's possible to be really proud of the state's contributions to civil rights and to a more just society, and those things are all real and they're important.
This topic influences the local community today because if Connecticut didn't create that change, there wouldn't have been as many options for people of color as there are now. We wouldn't have people like Congresswoman Miss Johanna Hayes because if Connecticut never truly pushed for equality and realized its value, our state would not have been so connected. The legacy of this topic is the understanding of Connecticut's history. Black history is American history.